guys, today we are going to be reading a book. So this book is from the New York Times best-selling author. This book is called Five Nights at Freddy's, Tales from the Pizzaplex, B72 by Scott Cawthon and Andre Wagner, I think that's how you pronounce it, and Kelly Para. Alright, let's get right into this. So, wait, let me get to the good page. Ooh, table of contents. Page 1, B72. Page 73, Alone Together. And page 137, Dittophobia. My personal favourite. B72. The voices were far away, but getting closer. They were like scratchy, static. Hang on. Let me try that again. The voices were far away, but getting closer. They were scratchy, static, marring. Correct me if I get it wrong. The clarity, the clarity, whatever, of a perfect melody, till the voices had intruded. Billy had been floating in a sweet haze of sensation, free bliss. Now the voices cut through that bliss, yanking Billy into a muddle of noise and pain. Billy threw up a hand, wanting to ward off the invading, unpleasant feelings. His raised hand, though, brought even more pain. A sharp, cutting sting. Billy gasped and opened his eyes. The pinpoint lights were blinding. He snapped his eyes shut again. The bliss was well and truly gone now. Billy's senses flooded with information. Even through his closed lid, he could see the spears of bright light. He could hear loud chatter and a few shouts combined with an insistent and grating beep, the patter of footsteps, and the occasional metallic clatter. He smelled the pungent scents of bleach and disinfectant, the acrid odor of urine, and the nauseating. I'm very sorry. I can't read these words. Nauseating. I don't know. Smell of overcooked vegetables, maybe broccoli and cabbage. He felt something pricking at the back of his right hand, but that was the least of the pain he felt. It seemed like nearly every nerve ending in his body was firing. Was firing a barrage of throbs and aches and twinges. Everything hurt, and the taste in his mouth. Billy tried to move his tongue around to erase the bitterness that was so powerful, and he had to swallow down a gag. But then he remembered that he had very little tongue remaining. Only the barest nubbin of tissue was able to wiggle around in his mouth, and it could do nothing to wipe away the caustic flavour. Billy opened his eyes again, turning his head away from the lights. He blinked several times and looked around. He was definitely in the hospital. But why? Frowning, Billy dug through his distorted memories. He saw himself looking in the mirror, gazing at his unnaturally square face and his mutilated body. He saw the floor of his home, and he remembered lying on it, crying. He saw his neighborhood, and he remembered lurching through it, walking and walking. He saw a junkyard and an old station wagon. He felt himself climbing into the back of it. The compactor, Billy thought. The last thing he remembered was the feeling of compression, a system-wide pain that blotted out all his sadness and regret. The memory acted like a catalyst, and now his mind replayed his recalled experience of listening to the rumble of the big machine that bore down on the car. He's hidden in that. He's hidden in. That sound, for some reason, pulled him back into his identity. He instantly became aware of it all. Oh, wait, hang on. These words are very big. Yeah. She's similar to fuck. The fuck. I'm just gonna say it how I think it is. How I think it is. Simultaneously integrated the personality of a boy whose play had turned into a years-long delusion, and of a man who had realized his horrible mistakes and had to face his remorse and self-hate. That compactor had been Billy's way out of all of it, his surrender. So how did he? Well, look who has joined us. A perky voice cried out. Billy turned his head towards the open doorway. A compact woman with short strawberry blonde curls and heavily freckled overall face bustled up to the side of the bed Billy lay in. The woman wore a bright blue cotton uniform. Maybe she was a nurse. Glancing at the beeping monitors, she put warm, smooth fingers against the back of Billy's right hand, and he could feel them. Why could he feel the nurse's fingers? As quickly as Billy had cycled through the mind pictures that reminded him of the last thing he remembered before being in this room. Billy's brain flooded him with an awareness of his life. Instantly, Billy knew that he had prosthetic limbs. He knew he did, and although the limbs often seemed real to him, he wasn't able to feel anything with them. Billy lifted his head so he could get a better view of his right arm. He groaned involuntarily when sudden dizziness and a knife-like pain made it clear that his head protested the sudden movement. Careful there, the nurse said. You've been through a lot, and you've been unconscious a long time. You're going to feel discomfort and disorientation. Billy looked around, hoping to see the computer he'd used to communicate with. After he'd had his tongue removed, there was no computer. He'd have to try to talk. He opened his mouth, but the words he wanted to say wouldn't come out. Here, the nurse said, your mouth has to be super dry. She reached over to a nightstand that Billy hadn't noticed. When he'd looked around, Billy focused on the grey metal stand. Now, and he saw it held mustard yellow plastic pitcher and a couple of small paper cups. One of the cups held water and a little sponge on a stick. The nurse moved the sponge, pulled a straw from her pocket, and put the straw in the cup. She held the straw to Billy's mouth. Go slow, she warned. Billy tentatively raised his head. This time, the room didn't spin as much, and the pain wasn't as intense. He used his lips to suck water through the straw. As he did, he glanced at the white name tag pinned to the nurse's uniform. Her name was Gloria. When Gloria pulled the straw away from Billy and set the cup back on the nightstand, he said, Thank you, Gloria. Or at least, that's what he tried to say. What came out was actually more like and the K was off. It wasn't crisp and clear. It sounded like something stuck in Billy's throat. Moving on to page 6 now. Not bad, Gloria said brightly. Without a full tongue, you're going to have trouble with a lot of the letters. But don't worry, we'll get you set up with a speech therapist that will help you out. Billy nodded, but he didn't care about that. He had so many questions he wanted answered now. How? He asked. What he really wanted to get out was, how do I survive being crushed in the car? But that was too many words. Going to call for Dr. Herrera, Gloria said. She's been in charge of your surgeries and has overseen your recovery. She'll explain everything. You'll like her. She's super nice. Gloria leaned over and checked the line that was connected to the back of Billy's right hand. Looking good, she said. But if the line starts to bug you or you need anything else, just press this. She pointed at a button on a small remote control that dangled from a thick white cord over the railing on the right side of Billy's bed. Billy stretched out his fingers to make sure he could reach the button. He was in awe that his fingers were still there. Gloria walked around the bed and adjusted his covers. Then she patted his left leg. Billy widened his eyes in surprise. He could feel that, too. How was that possible? Just hang tight, Gloria said. Dr. Herrera will be in here in a jiff. A jiff turned out to be about a half hour. Billy was able to note the time because he could see a big black numbered clock on the wall above the nursing station outside the room. It was 1:42 p.m., obviously, because the sun was out when Gloria left the room, and it was 2:14 when Dr. Herrera walked in, even wearing a baggy white lab coat over the same blue cotton uniform that Gloria wore. Dr. Herrera looked more like a Hollywood star than a doctor, dark-skinned and black-haired. The 30-something tall, slender woman had large, deep-set, heavily lashed brown eyes, sculpted cheekbones, a strong jaw, and a full mouth with even white teeth. Obviously adept with makeup, Dr. Herrera had accented all her naturally beautiful features perfectly. Billy thought that her smoky eyeshadow and red lipstick made her look like she was ready for a photo shoot. He had never met a woman as stunning as Dr. Herrera. He'd only seen women like her in pictures or on TV. Billy, Dr. Herrera said with a smile as she approached his bed. It's wonderful to see you awake and alert. Dr. Herrera's deep, even voice was as warm as her eyes were. Billy, however, found himself tensing when she stepped up next to the bed, pulled a stethoscope from her pocket, and put it to her ears. When she bent over him and pulled down the neck of the baby blue thin cotton hospital gown he wore, he held his breath. He suddenly was aware that the gown only covered the front of him. He felt exposed and vulnerable, and he flinched as Dr. Herrera placed her hand, cold end of the stethoscope, against his bare chest. In spite of the way Dr. Herrera seemed nice, her white coat and stethoscope, and her title, Doctor, immediately brought up memories of Doc, the grizzled old guy who'd turned Billy into the monster he discovered himself to be hours before he'd make his way to the junkyard. Billy knew that Doc had only done what Billy had asked him to do. And we're going to end it there. Part 2 will release in a few days, maybe. Maybe. We don't know. But thank you for listening.